No, sir, I don't got no bodies. Don't put me in that conversation in any type of situation. Don't troll with it. Don't rap about it. Don't even speak on it. As Boosie just got a very light sentence in the feds, and I say beating the feds because they wanted prison time from him, but he was able to walk it down.
Pooh Shiesty just lit a match on Instagram, and the whole hip-hop scene felt the heat instantly. He dropped a photo with the caption, "Only rapper that has more bodies than me is Lil Boosie." That one line had timelines exploding and blogs scrambling for answers. Then things got even wilder when Boosie allegedly responded in the most unexpected way, saying, "Back will blow your mind." And what followed wasn't just messy internet drama. It opened the door to serious talk about federal cases, alleged paid hits, and old court confessions that people thought were buried for good. This isn't regular rap beef with slick bars and studio shots. This conversation drags in real court documents, testimony, and claims about a 15-year-old who reportedly couldn't sleep at night after confessing to violent crimes. Authorities said those confessions led to multiple life sentences. That's heavy. The streets are watching, the fans are debating, and this situation feels bigger than music. Lil Boosie has long been called a legend in the rap game. No cap. The Baton Rouge native built his name on raw stories and street credibility, always saying he kept it authentic. But behind the fame, there were serious allegations that shook Louisiana to its core. Boosie's name became linked to one of the most disturbing murder-for-hire investigations in hip-hop history. Prosecutors talked about 15 victims, a teenage suspect named Marlo Mike, real name Michael Ng, and testimony that stunned the courtroom. These weren't rumors floating online. These were claims presented in court, under oath, with real consequences attached. Now, Pooh Shiesty is out here trolling, claiming he has more bodies than Boosie, and the internet is going crazy over what that even means. Some say it's just rap talk. Others say it's reckless to joke about numbers tied to real tragedies. Either way, when federal history is involved, people pay attention. To understand why this diss hits different and why it's raising eyebrows, you have to rewind back to the mid-2000s in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Back then, the city was tense, and Boosie was climbing the charts fast. While his music was blowing up, federal investigators later claimed he was involved in activity far beyond the studio. According to court testimony, he wasn't just describing street life in lyrics. Prosecutors alleged he was directing it. That's what made the case so explosive. Enter Marlo Mike. He was just 15 years old at the time authorities say he became involved in these crimes. Court records described him as a teenager pulled into a violent world way too young. According to his own confession, he carried out shootings connected to older figures. Prosecutors claim payments were made to target people Boosie allegedly had conflicts with. These weren't isolated claims about one or two incidents. Investigators painted a picture of a pattern, and that's what turned the whole case federal. Prosecutors didn't describe this as random chaos. They painted it as a calculated pattern that allegedly led to 15 people losing their lives. Authorities claimed the connection between Boosie and Marlo Mike was built on loyalty, money, and fear. Court testimony suggested the teenager looked up to Boosie like a mentor, while prosecutors argued that influence was twisted into something dark. In the streets, people sensed something wasn't right, but nobody dared to speak up. That's how it goes when fear runs the block. Stay quiet or risk becoming the next name whispered about. But here's where it takes a heavy turn. Marlo Mike wasn't described as some emotionless figure who could just move on. He was 15 at the time of the crimes, still a minor, still developing, and according to testimony, the weight of it all started breaking him down. Witness statements revealed he had trouble sleeping. Prosecutors said the memories of the shootings followed him everywhere. The pressure built up day after day until it became too much to carry. So what happened next shocked everyone. Marlo Mike went to law enforcement and confessed. Not halfway, not vague. Prosecutors said he laid out everything. Names, dates, locations, details investigators hadn't even connected yet. Most explosive of all, he allegedly claimed Boosie was the one who ordered the hits and paid him to carry them out. That statement flipped the entire case upside down and sent shockwaves through Baton Rouge. Now let's talk about the victims, because this wasn't presented in court as random violence. According to court documents and Marlo Mike's confession, each killing allegedly had a motive tied to disputes, accusations of snitching, disrespect, or business conflicts. One of the most talked about cases was Terry Boyd, who was shot and killed in October 2009. Prosecutors claim Boosie paid $2,800 for that hit, making it a key focus during the trial. Marcus Thomas was another name brought up in testimony. Rumors in the streets claimed he had been speaking too openly, and prosecutors argued that's why he was targeted. Then there was Chris Jackson, whose death officials described in court as a planned and targeted attack. Each case added another layer to a story that felt bigger than rap and way more serious than internet talk. In court, Marlo Mike testified that Boosie gave him detailed instructions before certain shootings. He claimed the directions covered how to approach the target and when to move. The list of alleged victims presented by prosecutors included Daryl Milton, Michael Smith, Kendrick Bishop, and others authorities connected to the case. Each name represented a real person with family and people who cared about them. Prosecutors argued these lives were lost over street conflicts and personal disputes that spiraled out of control. And that's what made the courtroom so tense. This wasn't rumor talk. It was testimony under oath. According to Marlo Mike's statements, Boosie allegedly didn't just approve violence, he gave specific guidance. He claimed there were instructions about weapons, timing, and how to avoid detection. Prosecutors described the pattern as organized and deliberate rather than random. They painted it as calculated, not chaotic. That distinction hit hard in court because it suggested planning, not impulse. Marlo Mike also told investigators that he was paid in cash after each killing. Testimony said the amounts varied. Sometimes a few $1,000s, sometimes more depending on the situation. For a 15-year-old still legally a minor and not fully grown, that kind of money felt huge. But according to his confession, the cash didn't silence his thoughts. It didn't erase what he said he had done. Court records revealed he began struggling mentally. He described nightmares, panic, and constant fear. He reportedly had trouble eating and functioning day to day. Experts later explained how exposure to extreme violence at such a young age can cause deep psychological damage. By the time he contacted law enforcement, prosecutors said he was ready to tell everything. Marlo Mike gave detailed confessions, walked investigators through timelines, and agreed to testify in court against Boosie. On the streets, some labeled him a snitch. In court, he said he couldn't carry the guilt anymore. When Lil Boosie's trial began in May 2012, it quickly became one of the most talked about legal battles connected to hip-hop. Cameras, headlines, and non-stop debate followed every single move. Lil Boosie went on trial for the first-degree murder of Terry Boyd, and the courtroom energy was intense from day one. The prosecution's star witness was Marlo Mike himself, taking the stand and facing the world. He delivered chilling testimony claiming Boosie allegedly ordered the hit on Boyd. He described the weapon, the setup, and the payment he said followed. Every detail landed heavy in that room. The courtroom went silent as Marlo Mike, now in his early 20s, spoke about actions he said he carried out as a teenager. According to his testimony, Boosie told him Terry Boyd needed to be taken care of because of ongoing conflict. Marlo Mike said he followed Boyd, waited for the right moment, and then opened fire. After the murder, he testified that Boosie paid him $2,800 and told him good job. Those words echoed through the courtroom and across headlines everywhere. The defense pushed back hard. They argued Marlo Mike had every reason to lie, saying he was trying to reduce his own sentence. They painted him as unreliable and desperate, willing to say anything to save himself. Boosie stood firm the entire trial, maintaining his innocence and denying any role in the killings. He told the court he had nothing to do with murder, period. Prosecutors, however, didn't rely on testimony alone. They introduced phone records showing communication between Boosie and Marlo Mike around the times of the shootings. They pointed to financial records they claimed showed suspicious cash movements. Witnesses also took the stand, saying they overheard conversations that suggested something deeper was going on. When closing arguments wrapped up, the jury deliberated for hours. The tension was unreal. The hip-hop world watched closely, waiting to see if one of rap's biggest names would be convicted. Then the verdict came in. The jury found Boosie not guilty of first-degree murder in the Terry Boyd case. Supporters celebrated outside the courthouse as he walked out a free man on that charge. It was a dramatic moment that split opinions across the country. But the story didn't end there. While Boosie beat that murder charge, Marlo Mike faced a very different outcome. He was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At just 22 years old, he received a sentence that will keep him behind bars for the rest of his life for crimes committed when he was a teenager. The contrast between those two outcomes still sparks debate to this day. For many of the other victims' families, closure never fully came. Even though Marlo Mike confessed to 15 murders, he was only convicted and sentenced in some of those cases. Legal limits and evidence challenges meant not every allegation could be prosecuted. That left several families grieving without the sense of justice they hoped for. The pain didn't disappear just because a verdict was read in court. As investigators dug deeper, they described what they believed was a dark side of Baton Rouge's rap scene. Federal authorities began examining alleged links between street violence and certain figures in the music world. In court, prosecutors argued there were patterns where young associates were allegedly used to carry out crimes, sometimes paid in cash and influence. Multiple witnesses testified about what they called a culture of fear surrounding Boosie's circle. They claimed loyalty was demanded, and crossing the wrong person could come with serious consequences. The prosecution framed the situation as more than isolated incidents. They suggested it looked like a criminal operation hiding behind the image of a rap label. But outside the courtroom, opinions were split. Some people believed Boosie was being unfairly targeted, arguing the system often comes down harder on successful black artists. Others felt the testimony showed a troubling pattern of adults allegedly influencing teenagers in dangerous ways. The divide was loud and emotional. The debate took over barbershops, social media feeds, and hip-hop forums everywhere. Boosie's family stood by him through it all. His mother, his children, and loyal supporters insisted he was innocent. They argued prosecutors were twisting his lyrics and turning artistic expression into criminal evidence. To them, it wasn't just a trial. It was a fight over how rap culture gets judged in America. By 2014, Boosie was released from prison after serving time on drug-related charges separate from the murder case. While he was away, Baton Rouge had shifted. Law enforcement increased pressure on violent crime, and the spotlight on the city grew brighter than ever. Meanwhile, Marlo Mike remains at Angola State Penitentiary, one of the most well-known maximum security prisons in the country. Two very different outcomes tied forever to one of hip-hop's most controversial legal battles. From behind bars, Marlo Mike has given interviews expressing remorse for his actions. He said he regrets the choices he made, but the damage can't be undone. 15 families lost loved ones, and a young man lost his future before he was even old enough to vote. That's the harsh reality of it all. Now fast forward to recently, and here comes Pooh Shiesty with an Instagram post that sets everything off again. He uploads a picture and captions it, "Only rapper that has more bodies than me is Lil Boosie." That one line had the streets buzzing instantly. People started asking questions fast. Was this a diss? Was he trolling for attention? Or was PTY actually trying to claim involvement in real violence? Here's where it gets messy. PTY already has a reputation for reckless behavior, and online critics are quick to call him a crash dummy, saying he moves without thinking. Public records show that several of his past legal issues involve firearm-related allegations. That history is why the post hit different. When someone with that background makes a statement like that, it doesn't just sound like rap talk, it raises eyebrows everywhere. So before jumping to conclusions, it's important to separate social media clout from actual court facts. But one thing is clear. When names tied to serious past cases get mentioned like this, the internet is going to explode every single time.
I want to speak on something right quick. I ain't siding with Glorilla, I ain't siding with Brorilla. But I do want to say,
First, let's talk about the King of Diamonds incident in Miami on May 30th, 2020. According to police reports and court documents, Pooh Shiesty was accused of shooting a security guard during an altercation inside the strip club. Witnesses and surveillance footage reportedly showed an argument breaking out before shots were fired. The security guard was hit and injured in the chaos. Prosecutors described it as intentional violence in a packed venue, not an accident. That moment became a major turning point in how authorities viewed him. Critics say that case created an image of someone quick to escalate when tensions rise. Supporters argue the full story wasn't clear in the media. Either way, the incident added serious weight to his legal troubles and put his name in headlines for more than music. And once law enforcement starts watching closely, every move gets examined. Then came the Bay Harbor Islands case, which is what really brought federal attention. On October 9th, 2020, prosecutors alleged that Pooh Shiesty and associates arranged to meet two men for what was supposed to be a marijuana and luxury sneaker transaction. Instead, authorities claimed it turned into an armed robbery. Court filings stated that firearms were drawn, property was taken, and shots were fired during the confrontation. One of the alleged victims was struck in the hip and required hospitalization. Surveillance cameras reportedly captured key parts of the incident, strengthening the federal case. Prosecutors argued the situation showed planning, not impulse. They charged him with conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent and drug trafficking crimes, along with discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. Those are heavy federal charges with mandatory minimum time attached. When federal prosecutors step in, it usually means they believe the evidence is strong. In January 2022, Pooh Shiesty pleaded guilty to a single firearms conspiracy charge as part of a plea agreement. He was later sentenced to 63 months in federal prison. That plea deal avoided a much longer potential sentence if convicted on all counts. Still, over 5 years behind bars is no small outcome. So when someone with that legal history posts, "Only rapper that has more bodies than me is Lil Boosie," people are going to react fast. With documented federal cases tied to firearms and violence, statements like that hit differently. In today's climate, social media talk can quickly reopen old conversations and bring serious past cases right back into the spotlight. That sentence adds up to more than 5 years in federal prison. Pooh Shiesty is currently incarcerated and, based on public records, isn't expected to be released until 2026 at the earliest. Even after that, he'll be on supervised release, which means strict conditions. Any serious violation could land him right back behind bars. That's the reality of federal time. There's no room for reckless moves. What raises concern for critics is the pattern laid out in court documents. The King of Diamonds case, the Bay Harbor Islands robbery and shooting. Prosecutors describe situations where firearms were used during heated moments. Those allegations created a public image of someone reacting fast when conflict shows up. So when he jumps on Instagram claiming he has bodies, people aren't brushing it off as simple rap talk. Given his legal history, statements like that hit different and spark real debate. Then there's the music. In his song FDO, First Day Out, Pooh Shiesty raps, "I don't even gotta be there. I just send the addy in the back end." Fans hear that as street storytelling. Critics hear something else. The lyrics talk about sending addresses and payments to handle problems without being present. Some listeners connect those bars to real-life allegations, even though music often blends exaggeration with reality. Still, when lyrics echo themes seen in court cases, federal prosecutors sometimes take interest. That's been proven in multiple rap trials over the years. It's important to be clear, lyrics alone are not proof of crimes. Artists often use dramatic language for effect, but when someone is already serving federal time for gun-related charges, social media captions about having bodies can raise eyebrows. Prosecutors in past cases have referenced lyrics in online posts to argue intent or mindset. Whether that's fair or not is a whole debate by itself. So when Pooh Shiesty made that comparison to Boosie, the internet lit up instantly. Some think he's trolling for attention. Others believe he's leaning into a dangerous image that could bring more legal heat. Either way, the post grabbed attention fast. And according to sources close to the situation, Boosie allegedly heard about the comment and wasn't pleased at all. When names tied to serious past cases get mentioned publicly like that, reactions are bound to follow. Word around town is that Boosie said something like, "Young boys don't know what they're talking about. They playing with their freedom for Instagram likes." That quote hasn't been officially confirmed, but people close to him claim he's not brushing the diss off. At the same time, they say he's not about to jump online and argue either. After everything he's been through, he knows better than to say anything that could be twisted in court. Boosie spent years fighting serious charges and narrowly avoided a life sentence. That kind of pressure changes how you move. Engaging in social media talk about body counts would be risky, especially when federal investigators have paid attention to rap lyrics and online posts in past cases. From a legal standpoint, silence can be smarter than clapping back. This whole situation also shines a light on a bigger issue in hip-hop culture. Too many young artists feel pressure to prove who's tougher, who's more dangerous, who's really living what they rap about. But the consequences aren't entertainment. People lose their lives. Others spend decades in prison. Families get torn apart over moments of ego and online attention. PTY is only 22 and already serving significant federal time. Marlo Mike is serving life for crimes committed as a teenager. Boosie beat his murder charge, but he carried the weight of that trial for years. These aren't characters in a movie. These are real people with real outcomes that can't be undone. When an artist already facing federal consequences posts about having bodies, it raises serious concerns. Even if it's exaggeration or trolling, law enforcement agencies monitor social media. Investigators have used posts and lyrics in court before to establish patterns or intent. Whether fans see it as marketing or madness, prosecutors might see something else entirely. And beyond the headlines, there are victims in these stories. Families who lost loved ones, people who were injured, communities impacted by violence. Those realities don't disappear when a new Instagram post goes viral. So when names tied to past tragedies get brought up again, emotions run high. The internet might treat it like drama, but for many, it's far deeper than that. These aren't just numbers on a screen. These are human beings with families who still feel that loss every single day. Behind every headline is a mother, a brother, a child, someone who never got their loved one back. That part often gets drowned out when social media turns serious allegations into trending topics. The hip-hop community really does need a deeper conversation about how violence gets normalized in music and online spaces. Keeping it real has always mattered in rap. Authenticity built the culture, but there's a clear line between telling your story and allegedly taking part in violence, then bragging about it for attention. That line gets blurry when clout becomes currency. And once prosecutors start paying attention, that attention doesn't feel so cool anymore. Boosie has said in interviews that he regrets parts of his past. He's spoken about how the street lifestyle nearly destroyed everything he worked for. He's also said he's trying to grow and be a better example for his children. People can debate whether they believe him or not, but at least he's acknowledged that actions have consequences. That alone shows some awareness of how fast things can spiral. Pooh Shiesty, on the other hand, is still young and currently serving federal time. Critics say he moves reckless and plays into a dangerous image. Posting about bodies while already incarcerated on gun-related charges isn't just edgy, it can create real legal risk. Even if it's exaggeration, even if it's marketing, the stakes are high. Federal cases don't disappear because a caption was meant as a joke. So where does that leave this situation? I made a bold Instagram statement, allegedly taking a shot at Boosie by claiming he has more bodies. Boosie, who once faced allegations involving a teenage associate named Marlo Mike, is said to have responded cautiously, warning younger artists about risking their freedom. Whether those exact words were said or not, the message makes sense. Freedom is fragile when the law is watching. This whole saga is a reminder that rap beef tied to real-life violence isn't entertainment. When teenagers get pulled into crime, when families lose loved ones, when people spend life in prison, that's not a storyline, that's permanent. Marlo Mike confessed to 15 murders and is serving life. The victim's family still carry that pain. PTY is in federal prison right now with years left to serve, and every public statement matters. In the end, clout fades, records stop spinning, but prison time and loss, that's forever. The streets are watching this situation closely, and everybody's waiting to see what happens next. Will Pooh Shiesty face real consequences over that Instagram post? Could federal prosecutors decide to use it in future cases? And will Boosie ever respond directly or keep moving in silence to protect himself? Right now, it's all questions and tension, and only time will reveal how it plays out. One thing is certain though, when you play federal games, you win federal prizes. And both Boosie and Pooh Shiesty understand that reality better than most. They've both dealt with serious charges, courtroom pressure, and the weight of the system watching their every move. This isn't just online drama. When the law gets involved, it turns real fast. That's the full story behind Pooh Shiesty dissing Boosie. It's federal, it's risky, and it shows how rap beef can spill way beyond music. Freedom is priceless, and no amount of clout is worth losing it. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure you like, subscribe, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Stay smart and stay safe out there.